Hi folks, Slick Slices here. Now, in front of you there is a fairly random selection of knives. They have three things in common. The first one is that they happen to be lying on my desk today when I went to make this video. The second is that they either have all or will all shortly appear on my channel, getting reviews. And there's a few here you haven't seen yet. You really should be looking forward to this one. It's very, very special. And then there's a couple of others that are interesting one way or another, expensive, just interesting, that you haven't seen yet. And there's a couple here that you've seen already, but only very briefly, and they're going to get a proper video at some point in the not too distant. But the third thing that these all have in common, and the purpose of this video today, is that I didn't pay for any of them. Now, there's all different reasons for that, and I'll go through some of that in a minute. But really what I'm getting at here is there was a comment raised by Steel City Knives. If you haven't seen Steel City Knives, go and see him. He does really good videos. Relatively new channel. It could do with the support to help, to get him moving. But he's well motivated, has a good understanding of knives, and lives near Sheffield, so is able to do things like going to the Kelham Museum, and did a little video. He did a video on that. He did a little video on the famous Sheffield shop, and hopefully he'll do a few others like that. I'd love to be able to do videos like that, but it's just a bit too far for me to get to. Anyway, if you saw his post, basically what he was asking was, if you have knives given to you for free for review, should you disclose that you got them for free? And the very simple answer to that is yes, obviously. If you've been given a thing for free to review, you have a potential conflict of interest. Now, there are lots of potential conflicts of interest, and I'm going to go through some of them here. Because the dangers are not just from trade samples, although trade samples are a big thing. But I'm just going to talk about some of these knives, how I got them, and the conflicts of interest that they could develop. I shall start with the elephant in the room. Well, it's the biggest one anyway. This knife here was given to me by Tobias, Knife Chats with Tobias, another channel. If you don't sub to him, and I'd be surprised if you don't, you should. He's a really good guy. He does do quite a lot of sort of Rough Rider knives and things like that, but his knowledge of these things is fantastic, and he actually makes collecting even Rough Rider knives an art. He really does. It's not just a way of getting cheap patterns. He actually takes the whole thing very seriously. He also collects other knives. He's got a huge collection. I think it's something like 1,500 or maybe even 2,000 knives. He's a lot of knives. Anyway, he sent me this. Now, it was kind of in response to something I'd sent him, but it didn't really matter. He didn't have to send me this. Didn't have to send me anything. But he sent me this and a couple of other bits and pieces. This is the US Army Air Force jet pilot survival knife. Now, he knew, because we talked about things, that it's one I'd always wanted, particularly in my youth. But back in my youth, I couldn't afford it. It wasn't so very expensive, but when your income comes from caddying at the local golf club or washing up dishes in the local restaurant, it seemed like a lot of money. So I was never able to get one. Now I'm grown up, I probably could afford to get one, but it's not what I'd like to buy for myself, because it's it just doesn't fit with my current collecting self-imposed rules. But I was so glad that he bought it for me, because he knew it's something I'd always wanted. And he bought it and he sent it over to me, and I think it's fantastic. Now, when I came to review it, there is a potential for a conflict of interest, because this knife is given to me by a friend, and you wouldn't want to offend him. So if he'd sent the wrong thing and I didn't like it, it would be very difficult to make a video about it, and you know, and either be disingenuous about the whole thing or insult him. Now, as it happens, and one of the reasons why I pulled this out, this is something that I was really pleased to receive. It is not, you know, the highest quality knife in the world. It is a military knife, and the military never get the best kit. But it is what it is. It's a genuine example of what it should be. So I was very pleased to get it, and I was very happy to review it. I could talk about its shortcomings, and I could talk about its shortcomings as a knife, because you know, it's I think it's 1095 steel. It comes blunt as a blunt thing, and rough as a rough thing, and you have to put a little bit of work into it to get it sharp and to tidy it up. Once you've done that, it's a reasonable knife. I'll not go through the pros and cons of it. If you want to know, there's at least one video on it on my channel. But I could review this fully honestly, because Tobias knows its shortcomings as well as anybody, and I could talk about the things I really like about it, and I could talk about the things that I didn't like so much. But that's okay, because he got it right. Now, there are other types of present that one comes by, and this is a good example here. This is a Rough Rider doctor's knife. Now, this was a gift for my wedding anniversary last year. It was our 35th, where it's over a year ago now, but this was for my 35th wedding anniversary. My wife bought it. She doesn't know anything about knives, and she's no idea what to buy me. But she bought me this, and she bought it for a number of reasons. One, because she knows I like mother of pearl. Two, because jade is the stone for 35 years anniversaries. She couldn't get jade, but this malachite was green, so it seemed to fit the bill. And most importantly, it's a doctor's knife, and I was at the time in hospital again, so it kind of made sense. So when I went to review it, I have to be gentle about it. It's a Rough Rider, it's made in China, it's not the highest quality, and it's not the most expensive knife in the world, but you come across a conflict of interest, because it was a gift given you know, by a good heart, somebody that wanted me to like it and appreciate it, and I appreciate it and like it for that. That is in itself enough. But one has to be careful about the sort of video you make. There's no point in trying to persuade the world that this is a Shirogorov and everybody should be rushing out and buying one. It has certain shortcomings. Things like the mother of pearl isn't desperately well matched, and it's not the best mother of pearl. But having said that, she'd put some thought into it, and it was easy therefore to make a video about it. Now, I've had others that have come in a similar way. This particular mother of pearl, this one's a Stephen Cocker one, was a gift to me from my brother for Christmas last year. I've only recently got it because it was a commission from Stephen, and these things take a while. So this arrived. He knew it's what I wanted. It's new because he'd asked me, and I'd given him some clues. What I didn't tell him was what cover material to put on it, because mother of pearl, which is what I really wanted, is twice as expensive as, say, does ironwood. Now, this one, as they was sent for my Christmas present, last year I was also sent another very similar knife, and if it wasn't that it's in my display case because I like it that much, you'd be seeing it here today. But this one was a birthday present, Christmas present. The other one was a present from a subscriber, where I had said one knife I'd really like at the moment is, and I have to be careful, I won't do that again, because one of my subscribers piped up and said, well, I'll buy it for you. And I thought, well, that's in fact, he said, I've already ordered it, I'll buy it for you. And I said, that's terrible, I can't afford to pay you for it, I'll offer you something in return. And all he wanted was a couple of stickers. So that's the tailor's one. So again, one needs to realise that's a gift from a subscriber, so you have to at the very least be diplomatic. As it turns out, he'd bought me the knife that I was really after. It was a sort of my semi-grail knife at the time, so you couldn't complain about it. Anyway, that so there was that one, and this one from my brother. Now there is a potential conflict of interest, because I could look at them and say, it's not really the one I wanted, or it's not as good as I was hoping it would be, or whatever. But these two, they were fine, but they might not have been. It could easily not have been. So I'm going to have to get a move on here, or I'm going to be here all day rambling about these. This one is actually, it came with the other one. It's also Stephen Cocker one. This one is just on loan to me. It's actually a present for somebody else. Can't say who, but it is a present for somebody else and will be required shortly. So I need to make another video on it. It wasn't for me, so it could easily have been something I'd have to be very diplomatic about. But again, I don't, because it's bought by somebody who understands what I like in a knife. And actually, my only misgiving about this one is I have to give it away, because I'd love to keep it. But there we are. That's another whole separate thing. Now, one more here, which was a gift. This was a gift from my daughter. She found some knives, a little bag with various knives in it, and this is one of them. It's a number 2 Opinel, which is just a cute little thing. Now, I could be rude about this if I wanted to. She wouldn't take offence, because she knows. She didn't sort of choose it for me. She just came across it. But as it happens, it is quite cute. And the ones out of the bag that I really don't like, we simply won't be showing them. Simple as that. That's how I avoid that conflict of interest. This came in the same way, and I'm going to do a video on this. It's not the world's best knife, but it's interesting, and it's worthy of a video. Now, the next category of knives that I have are loaners from a high-end knife series. Now, as it happens, the ones I have at the moment, there's another couple actually sitting that I haven't pulled out. There's a Shirogorov, a Jim Dunlap, and a Benchmade. They're all actually very good knives, but one might remember that I did the Cold Steel AD-15 recently, which, to be honest, I didn't really like. I tried to be as unbiased about it as I could, but I really couldn't come over and say it was the most beautiful thing in the world, because it's so ugly. Even its mother probably would struggle to love it, as somebody did say on my comments. Now, so I have to be a little bit diplomatic with these, of course, but I do have some choice about what I get, and if I thought I would offend somebody who was lending me a knife to review, and it's a Shirogorov, it's a seriously expensive knife. This is a very expensive, I think we're talking £1,500 or £1,600 full custom slip joint knife, a very serious piece of kit. And this is a a Benchmade, which is not an inexpensive piece, but I discussed it with the person who's lending it to me, and it's probably a bit of a spoiler alert here, but it's not going to come out all good in the review, and there are reasons for that. We'll get to that when we do the review, but you know, one has to perhaps discuss that sort of thing with him before I show it, because I don't really want him to ever turn around and say, oh well, if you really don't like my knives, I'll not let you have them, you know, because the vast majority of the knives he sends are absolutely beautiful, and these two are a very good example of it. This one had the potential to be really beautiful, but we'll come to why it's not. Anyway, so they're the ones. Now we come to probably the most difficult part of the lot. Now these are not the only two knives I've ever been given by the manufacturers to review. I've had really quite a lot over the time, some of which have been lent to be returned. There were a couple of Taylor's new pattern ones which were lent to me to review because they wanted my opinion of them as much as that they wanted me to promote them, as they've not actually come out yet, and that's about a year ago. You know, my promotion or lack of promotion has made no difference to the company, but they were, one in particular was absolute beauty. Anyway, these are two of three that have been sent by Eggington Group. Now, I don't like taking knives like this, and I'm deeply conflicted about taking them. The only reason I am taking them now is because, due to one or two health problems over the last years, I have absolutely no money to buy new knives. And you know, literally, it's not just not a lot, I have none. So we've been doing a lot of trading of late, and I have accepted. I mean, they contacted me and asked me if I would take this one, and I said yes. Again, they got back in touch with me about this one and the Rogers anniversary knife that we've seen recently on the channel. Now, my problem is that one has to be very diplomatic. I wish these knives came and you could say they're absolutely perfect, there is not a thing wrong with them, but I've yet to receive any knife from any person which I couldn't turn around and say it's 99% good, but there's a problem. And I would even go so far, and again, this is not this is a bit of a spoiler alert, this knife here is one of the best made knives I have ever seen, but I do have a couple of minor issues with it. Now, if you're watching, owner of this knife, don't worry, but I can afford to be a little bit critical where I find fault. When you're thinking about these, this knife costs £220, and this one was 180, the other one's 130. That's a lot of stuff that they're handing out, and if you want to keep getting stuff like that, there's no way you could show a knife and say, oh my god, it's dreadful. Now, I wouldn't do that anyway, because I think it's sort of disrespectful. What I will do, if I thought a knife was really dreadful, is just not show it at all, because there's no point in either lying to you, telling you a horrible knife is a great knife. The problem really comes with nuance, and so both of these knives have had small issues. The biggest issue is this one in particular was pretty much blunt when it arrived. This one was not super sharp, but they are really, really nice knives, and the reason I would like to keep receiving these and keep reviewing them is because they are really, really nice knives, and they make great additions to my collection, and I'm quite happy to talk about them. I have to. I can't not do it. I have to call them out where there are faults, because otherwise I wouldn't have any self-respect or integrity left. So I have to be a little bit careful, but at the same time I am not going to ever shout these are the best knives ever made unless it turns out that they are. And I think this is where the problem comes. If they said to me, we're going to send you one of these every month, even though they have never said to me, and I don't believe any knife company is ever likely to say to you, I'll send you one every month so long as you do X, Y and Z. They do have some small requirements, and that is that you mention the Eggington Group and that you put the Eggington Group's website address on your comments, and that's fine. I'm happy with that. In a way, I want to do that because the most important thing I've got to say about these knives is that they were given to me. I didn't pay for them, and so can I say that I value this for £220? I'd have to say I struggle with that, because if I had £220 at the moment and I didn't have this knife, I probably wouldn't buy this knife. So you have to be a little cautious that you're not over recommending a knife that you wouldn't buy yourself. The reason I wouldn't buy this myself is because I've got a mortgage to pay. It's not because it's not a good knife, and I have no criticism of the knife, but I only have it because they sent it to me. I don't have it because I went out of my way to choose it and to get it. But I'm only prepared. I have had knives from other companies. Last year, beginning of last year, I got 2 knives from QSP. One was one I was very interested to see with the hedgehog slip joint, which turned out to be a really, really nice knife, even better than I'd hoped. The other was a liner lock flipper knife with brass scales called the Hawk, which, to be honest, didn't really float my boat. Now, consequence of that is I made videos of the 2 knives. The hedgehog I was gushing with praise on, because I think for the price of it, I think it's a brilliant knife. The Hawk, maybe not so much. They've never sent me anything else. Now, I'm not going to cry over that, because I would rather they never sent me anything else, but I kept my integrity. That's important to me. I'd rather that than I'd said wonderful things about how brilliant the knife was, just in order for them to send me more. Now, the problem comes if you do a sort of deal with a company whereby they send you lots and lots of knives. You do run up against a problem, and it is a genuine problem of integrity. You are obliged to give a better review than you might otherwise. Now, you might tell yourself that you're not doing that, you're being as scrupulously honest as you can be, but when there's such a lot resting on it, it's very hard to be fully objective, and I think you have to be very, very careful that you don't sell your integrity for the sake of a few knives. And you also got to be careful if these came in an interesting order, because the best one came first, the second best one came second, and the third best one came third. And that's not that they're lowering their standards. This was the most expensive knife, this was the second, and the other one was the third most expensive. So it sort of makes sense to not have to go each month and say this one's the best ever. The problem is when they send you knives that are of a similar quality of design, build, standard, and everything else. How do you keep saying this one's even better than the last one without sounding like a shill? And if you are an advocate for the company, if you happen to work for the company, that's fine. But if you're trying to be objective, you have to be a bit more critical. And I mean, I had an interesting time with Jack Wolf knives. They sent me the first two. Oh, sorry, actually, they sent them to Paddy. Paddy sent me the first two. I was quite pleased with the first one. I thought it was a very good knife, and it was a gun stock. I don't really do gun stocks, and this is a gun stock, and I don't really do gun stocks. But it was a well-made, good knife. This one and that one was no exception. The second one they sent me, I was less than glowing about it, and I've never had any more. Now, that's purely maybe coincidence, maybe because I was, perhaps because I was overly critical of it. I don't know. But I would hate to be under the pressure of knowing that I would have another one the next month, another one the next month, and I couldn't be a bit more critical. So the bottom line is, I think one has to be very, very careful about conflicts of interest in the things that you describe if you want to maintain your integrity. Or you can go the other route and simply be a sales tool for the various marketing companies that are selling their knives, and that's an equally valid way to go, but it is not. But if you're going to do that, you really have to be clear about what you're doing and not pretend to be anything else. Anyway, that's an overly long ramble about the risks of ruining your own reputation by reviewing knives that you haven't paid for. As if you've paid for them, you can be fully critical of them, you can be fully respectful to them, you can do whatever you like. They're yours, you bought them, and you don't owe anything to anybody. If, on the other hand, like I say, you have received them free, you have to be very, very careful about what you say and be very, very self-critical of what you're saying. So anyway, if you like the stuff, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to hear more of these rants, then please feel free to subscribe and remember to ring the bell. And I meant to say that at the beginning of the video, and I keep doing it and forgetting. Anyway, there we go. See you next time. Bye.